Welcome back. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec. And I stumbled over the beginning of that because we, as you know, are having our episodes transcribed now so that you can read them as well as listen to them. And she's already laughing because she knows what I'm going to say. But the transcriptions are done by a machine, first of all, and then I review them and edit them as I see fit. And one of the ones recently, instead of being Fulyana Osborne, it was she's forgotten her husband, which her husband agreed with completely. But I did have to change in the transcription. So then we were talking about it before we started recording, and then as I went to do the intro, I thought, get it out of your head because you'll say that otherwise. So, he's Fulyana Osborne, just for the recording.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about why people are planning to leave their jobs post-pandemic.
I think it's been on the news quite a lot and all over the place about people leaving because now they realize they want a more complete lifestyle. They want to be able to work from home as well as from the office, etc., etc. So I'm not going to go over all of that because it's been covered quite a fair bit. I was thinking about why wouldn't that be a great opportunity now for both the employees and the employers to do things differently. So in the past, when we had a specialist role, when we had a role and it might have part specialized and part not specialized, now why don't we think about how to replace that person instead of like to like? There's a position, this is how we always filled it. We look for those technical skills, those personal skills, etc., etc. We replace the same. Have a look, do I need the same now? The world has changed a fair bit, and isn't that an opportunity to change it? That will be one thought and one thing to consider and an advantage. The other one is, absolutely, we need to think about how to retain employees by having that flexibility. We heard about the 4-day week. We heard about the hybrid working from the office and from home. We know that we trusted our employees to do the right thing, and they have done the right thing. And now even the skeptics about working from home means having a picnic is already been put to bed, I hope, because people have continued and organization continued. We are restricted with resources at the moment, and therefore there are some specialist groups it's hard to find, and people are competing for the same resources because we don't have the same international access as before. Isn't that an opportunity to say why? Why is that restrictive if they can't work in the same building? So why can't they do it from another country? Indeed, one of my mentees who used to be in Australia and now overseas have been approached by a very forward-thinking employer who had her before and approached her and got her to do a job from the country she's in at the moment, which is a thing that we can consider anyway. You don't have to be in the same place at the same time to get things done and to add value. The other one is, again, another example that I learned of from my network is I was very excited about a person left the organization and they wanted to recruit. And again, difficulties as a lot of people are facing. And the next in line, if you like, probably you would call not ready and won't be ready for, normally you would have thought give them another 12 months or so, and that person will be ready. But thankfully, the forward-thinking leadership of the organization decided, okay, I could go and look outside, and we did do that and looked at, the restrictions and the quality. Well, I really, really like this person because they fit in the values of the organization, being a very, very highly contributing employee, always exceeded and always showed initiative and want to do that role. So forget not ready now and give them a chance. So they put that person up. And when I said, what was the thing that made you do that in the end, other than all those good things you said about the organization and the individual? He says, well, the pragmatic fact is I might be getting somebody else's not ready yet. Why not have my not ready yet person who has a lot more pluses than the unknown?
And the unknown,
Yeah. And that to me spoke volumes, because what it says is we're giving people opportunity to grow faster. We already, because of the pandemic, we tested them in an environment that we didn't know how it was going to go, and it worked out well. Let's be a bit more courageous and let's do that. What that does is then you're retaining your employees, the good ones, instead of losing them, because they're getting a number of things that they're looking for, whether it's their flexibility to work from home sometimes, whether it is building their career, or a combination of all of those things. And it's not necessarily just the dollars. On the dollar side, I really think it's a very, very sensitive time, is that for some very specialized roles, because everybody's competing for very limited resources, people are saying, I need to get paid that. My conditions are, I want to do that. So they can choose between 3 and 4 jobs, and they might put the price up as well as the conditions. Again, you've got to be very, very careful not that you continue with your pay structure for your rest of organization to be equitable. And that's not an easy answer, I know that. And so having to play on all fronts that way. But absolutely respect your own people and build them up, because you always talked about succession planning. You talked about, we want people to come here for, why it work for us is because we give people the potential to learn, grow, and build their careers. This is an opportunity to yet again prove it.
The big word that I heard in all of that was courageous. I think that regardless of whether you're staying or going, you're being courageous, because if you're staying, you're being courageous in trusting the organisation to manage as well as they have in these times of change that we've lived through, and that you feel that your contribution can best be served by remaining where you are and staying with the organisation where you are. If you're leaving, you're being courageous as well, because you're stepping out of what was a comfortable environment probably. But maybe it's because the opportunity that's been provided in the last few years has shown you that you can do something different, or you can do things differently to what you had thought you could do in the past. So it's given you some confidence and some courage to take the world on your own and to see what you can do in a broader context than the organisation provides. That said, being courageous isn't enough. You have to know your skills, you have to know the marketplace, you have to know that you can survive not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically as well, because the change, once you've decided to change, and both of us have done that in the past, we've both moved out of corporate environments into working for ourselves on our own. It's different if you're working for an organisation but remotely to when you're just working on your own. And you have to understand that is a big difference. Support network's not there. The social network is not there. You won't have time to do all sorts of other things. There'll be a complete set of other worries about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you just have to be aware that that's the case. So once again, it comes back to being courageous, but also to be planned and considered about what you're doing. It's not just a time to look at an organisation and say, well, they've changed so much, they're doing this, they're doing that. It's never one thing. They can't go 1 week to the next, we're not doing the same thing, we're not doing it the same way, and so I'm just going to walk away from it now, I'd be better off somewhere else. You want to make sure that is the case, because all organisations are going through change and will continue to go through change, as we've talked about in other podcasts. You can't assume that because the organisation you're in is not satisfying you anymore, that another organisation will satisfy you better. So you need to know the situation, the actual work situation, from someone who is within that organisation, not just someone who might be headhunting you, who says, oh, well, we'll let you work from home, we'll let you do this, we'll let you do that. You need to know what doesn't work for you now in the current environment, and how would that be different in a different environment, so that you're comparing apples to apples and not just apples to some other exotic fruit that you haven't yet discovered yet. So be very measured about the decision. I'm not saying one way or the other whether you should go or you should stay, but I would like you to be very measured about the decision that you're making and to consider what it is that is frustrating you or making you think you should leave, if that's the case, and what is going to improve if you take that step. Or are you better off putting down those concerns and then seeing if they can be addressed in some way where you are, and if not, how important are they really? So sometimes it might be something like, I hate that we have to have a meeting on Monday mornings. Well, wherever you go, even if you're working for yourself, you should still be having some sort of review on a weekly basis of what you're doing. So the fact that you have to review something once a week, whether it's Monday morning or whether it's another day, is it the review that's bugging you or is it the Monday morning that's bugging you? But so right down to that sort of level, to actually be looking at whether you need to think about the environment or you need to think about you and the work that you're doing.
I agree. I also think that if you're looking at swapping organizations because of all these things that we just covered, but you also think the other organization is more flexible and you want more balance, don't forget you're already established in your organization. You know who's who in the zoo and the procedures and all of that. There will be the adjustment of going to another organization. Don't forget to count it in when you're weighing up to stay or go, is the fact it's going to take a lead time for you to feel comfortable and get used to the systems, the culture, the network in the future organization. And don't just make it based on how I feel now. I had all these things because of the pandemic. Now I'm at this point. What about your situation right now might requires this, to stay or go in this organization. But what about in 2 years' time? Where will you be better off? Because your personal needs may have changed. Think just not in immediate now, immediate future, as well as in the long term. Cover all of those before you decide to stay or go.
I think, too, we should emphasise that we're not saying that it's a negative time. It's an exciting time to be thinking about where you are, who you are, what you're doing, what you should be doing. So don't approach it as a stress. It is stressful, I know, in and of itself, but not as a depressing moment, but an exciting moment to be thinking, to be able to have the opportunity to think this way and to have options, because there are a whole lot of people out there who do not have options, who need to stay where they are for all sorts of reasons, or who choose to stay where they are for all sorts of reasons. So for you, having the opportunity to think about it and to make these decisions is exciting. So focus on it with a positive attitude and the right answer will come to you. Okay, we've covered that, which is good. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne. This is Inside Exec.